Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. Have you wondered who are the Black men that you pass on the street every day? What are their lives like? Well, in this podcast, we have an in-depth conversation with Black men from all across America and all walks of life. Listen to their stories, their experiences, their wisdom. I'm your host, Robin Shine. Get comfy.
Today, we are speaking with the son of West African immigrants. He's a husband, a father. He's also a founding member of the Alliance for the Preservation of African Consciousness. And he's also a member of the National Society of Black Engineers. And this busy brother is an entrepreneur. He owns and runs an auto brokerage and also finds time to host a podcast. Podcast is The Time Is Now, and the time is now for me to introduce you to Michael C. Stafford Jr. Welcome, Michael. I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks for having me, Robin.
Oh, it's great. So let's first give you an opportunity to share anything that you would like the listener to know about you that I didn't already touch on.
For the most part, that's all the high points. So, other than that, I'm an avid sports fan. Wife will say I'm addicted to social media sports, and I'm an avid Lakers fan. I got pretty choked up what happened to Kobe this year. That really affected me. It felt like a family member left, so that was tough. But overall, love sports, love science, love math, and I love life, and I love being a father. That is the greatest gift of all.
Wow, that's great. Just before we started recording, you shared you have a daughter. Do you have the one child or multiple kids?
I have one, and she's as good as 10. She's 6 years old, and she's like 10 bodies in one.
What's your favorite thing about her?
Oh my goodness. It's her creativity. It's her energy. It's her positivity. She has the greatest smile. She has the greatest spirit. She's very strong. You know, she's been through a lot, and she just always finds a way to rebound better than adults that I know.
Wow, that's high praise. And I know that's dad speaking, but I am still moved by how you describe her. Yeah. So let's start with, what is your favorite song, either now or all time, and why?
For me, it's actually 3 songs, if you can bear with me. First, and there's no particular order, but first is Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. My daughter even likes this song. It's the lyrics. And it allows me to sometimes take a self-reflection of who I need to be and how I can be better. And I just love the song, and obviously I love Michael Jackson. Another one is Until the End of Time. That's by Tupac. That song speaks directly to my soul. As a young man growing up, it talked directly to me. I can listen to that song over and over. Just the lyrics in it hit right home to it. It talks about the duplicit self as a man who, one is trying to be, you know, this wholesome person, but this other one has this demon side to him that he's trying to graduate from. So it's a really deep song. And I know a lot of people who like old school rap. They should really look into that song, because they might have bypassed it and overlooked it because it's not a big radio song. So that one. And then finally is You Will Know by United Black Man, I believe it's called. I forgot. It's from the Jason's Lyrics soundtrack.
Okay. I remember that song. Yeah.
Yes, You Will Know is a great song. It's another song of the coming age of man, and how we need to mature as a man and step into that light, and not, you know, look towards the dark side or do the things that a young man or a child once did. He must be now a man, and he should uplift his community and not tear down.
Okay, well, you know, I could say it, but you want to tell me what's the theme in all those 3 songs?
The themes in the 3 songs is pretty much a self-reflection of a man and a man being a man. I didn't even think about that until I was speaking I just love those songs. That didn't even cross my mind.
That's why I love conversation.
That's so crazy. Never put those together ever until right now. That's
well,
funny.
And here's the funny thing, because when I come on, I don't know you, right? So that's the beautiful thing about someone who's just hearing and learning who you are in the conversation, because then I'm making connections from what you share. And I have to tell you, what's right there for me is the Alliance for the Preservation of African Consciousness, right? It's like there's so much consistency in all of it. So thank you for sharing those songs.
Yeah.
I get why those are your favorites. Let's talk about another favorite. Tell me a favorite memory from your childhood.
So what I can say is the birth of my little brother, my baby brother. I was 7, and I was bugging my parents for at least a year to have a younger sibling. I had an older sister, really 2, but I only knew of 1 at the time. I had an older sister, and she never really wanted me around. I was that little brother nagging and trying to stay up under her all the time. We're 3 years apart. So I wanted a little brother. And when I was 7, on August 27th, 1988, he was born, and that was a great memory for me.
What was it about? I do get the part about how your sister was like, hey, wait, come on, I'm older than you.
Yeah.
And I get that it was the birth of him, the arrival, right? That it stands out. And now that you're grown and you've had this relationship with him, did he turn out to be all you dreamed?
Actually, no. So me and my brother couldn't be more different. I was overly masculine. He was not. Tragically, he lost his battle. He's not with us anymore.
Okay.
So due to suicide, he was battling a lot of internal demons. But that was he was 23 at the time, back in 2012. And with that, my sister started an organization called the Elgin Foundation, which is his name, to tackle those things, to help so other people don't have to deal with what we dealt with the loss of him. And that's the thing. I just remember, it's so funny that we're talking about it, because when he was born, that was like the greatest thing. And I'm not sure if he knew how much I cherished him and loved him before he left. He did send me a text saying he's happy that we're finally connecting and vibing. And the last text I sent him, or one of the last texts I sent him, was better late than never. And then, days later, he was no longer here. So, yeah.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Mm.
I'm also, I appreciate you sharing that last exchange, that opportunity to connect, and the meaningfulness of that. Thank you for that generosity.
No problem.
Let's talk about accomplishments. I asked this question in 2 parts. What accomplishment means the most to you personally? And then which accomplishment is the one that others are wowed by or go, oh?
I'll start with the O. The O was that in every level that I've been at, let's say college, I was the president of APAC, and I was on the board of ICA, and I was a president of NSBE. And people are like, wow, I was just the guy on campus I always had the button-ups on and everything. So that was there. And then when I went to, in the car business, I started as a porter, washing the cars, detailing them, all the way up to a sales manager over time. I did every single level, and I might write a book on it one day. And I got to see a lot of the prejudices behind it as well, because it's very difficult to find a Black sales manager. And I was the first Black finance manager at Lexus of Cerritos. If I remember correctly, they said they can't remember a time when they had a Black manager, period, at that dealership. And I was doing those different things. That's the
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
Doing that. But personally for me, once again, is being a father to Maya. She's everything. I remember when my wife was pregnant with her, we were doing the ultrasound. And there's no secret, I've always wanted a boy. Always. Like I wanted a brother, I always wanted a son. So, and I'm better with boys. I have little cousins and stuff like that. I'm good with boys. I can like, oh, don't do the blah, 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 all that extra testosterone. But when I found out I was having a girl, I began to cry almost
Really?
instantaneously. I saw the three little lines instead of the one line for a boy, the little thing. I saw the three lines. I knew it was a girl, and I started crying. And then everyone else in the room was like, "Uh-oh!" They were scared. They thought I was crying because I was sad. I started saying, "Praise God, praise God, praise God!" Like this, God put this energy, the spirit in me, and from that moment, I was in love with my daughter. And
Wow.
God knew what he was doing when he made me a father to a daughter because it changed my entire outlook on life.
Talk to me. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, raising a girl is just different. It made me more compassionate. It made me understand things better from a woman's perspective. Because when you raise a daughter, you look at things, you can see the chauvinistic ways of the world.
Mm,
When you are a father to a daughter, you can see it. You can see how your own ideology, your own thought process was skewed because you're looking at everything from a male's perspective. But when you have a daughter, it changes things. I began to respect my wife more, my sisters more, because I have a daughter. It changes things, So yeah, being a father to a daughter, it made me a better man.
I love that. Thank you. Of the interviews, and I don't know if I'll leave this in or not, but I mean, of all the interviews, you're the first person to articulate that about having a daughter and how that changes. And so then next, we're going to look at words. What is your favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book?
Oh wow, I don't have a favorite book. My favorite book's the Bible, but that's kind of a chalk, vanilla. Also like The Miseducation of a Negro. But my favorite saying, my dad has a lot of them, and I want to write them all down when I have time to. But one of them is learn from the mistakes of others, for you will not live long enough to correct your own. And that has helped me. That's a form of wisdom because if you sit there and study history or just study the walks in the past of your elders,
Mm-hmm.
you will now be able to take that next step forward. So, okay, I don't go here. Okay, go there. Do it this way. And that has helped me to some degree. And then when I didn't take heed to that information, I go back to that and say, oh, if I would have just, So that one sticks in my mind the most.
We are in such a wonderful, rare moment in this whole experience of humanity because everyone's mistakes and successes practically are available online. And even if every human being's successes and mistakes aren't online, a version of it is there. there's no way that you can look up and see what different ways to handle any situation. So yes. So Mike, is there a person, moment, conversation, or event that stands out as changing the trajectory of your life or having a significant impact on your life?
Okay. Um, this is actually also three-tiered. We kind of spoke about two of these already. One, 2012, the passing of my brother and the way that he passed. And then in 2013, the birth of my daughter. Earlier that year, I had a traumatic breakdown on the exact anniversary of my brother's passing, which was March 20th. And so March 20th, 2012 was him ascending. March 20th, 2013, I had a breakdown where I was almost no longer here. And the remembrance through my wife reminded me, saying, well, as I was laying in the hospital, you cannot leave because you're going to be a father. It changed something in me. And that was like the rebirth of me at that moment in time. So those two things, and then she was born later that year when she actually came here in November 6, 2013. That was life-changing. And then finally, more recently in 2017, was the passing of my mother-in-law. She was a great woman, but she died of ALS. my last time speaking to her. She can no longer speak at this time, but you could have a conversation with her still, and she could still gesture. And it was a moment we were alone. And at this time, my wife and I had we were going through things where we were estranged at the period of time. And I wasn't there as I should have been there because we were in two different locations. But I came over to visit my mother-in-law, and I sat and I spoke with her. And her dying wish was for us to fix our home. And I spoke to her and I assured her, even though I wasn't sure at the time, she knew. And I miss that woman every day. And that moment changed something in me. And then without my knowledge, we continue to work and fix our relationship, which we continue to do today. But that moment shifted, and it's fixing us today.
Yeah. You know, what I want to say is I believe in guardian angels. And I just want, in my mind, I imagine your mother-in-law checking in periodically and smoothing the way to create that home for her daughter, for her son-in-law, and her grandchild. I can just skip over it, but I wonder if you would be willing to share what happened on March 20, 2013.
Oof. Okay. It kind of starts back in 2012, before my brother was having his traumatic episode. He called me. It was like 1:00 at night. I'm in the shower. I used to work late. I'm in the shower and I didn't get the call. I heard something going off. I had my phone in the bathroom, came out, and then I'm texting him. I'm like, dude, really? What's going on? And then he starts to text me back. And that's one of those final conversations. So that happened in 2012. And then hours later, he was no longer here. Okay. So fast forward a year later, I didn't put this together. I figured it out later, but I went in the shower, same amount of time. And I just wasn't feeling right. I felt unsettled around the same hours. And then told my wife, I'm going to go to the gym, 24-hour fitness. Put all my stuff together, wore my little sweats or whatever it was, and put everything in the car. And there's a song that when I was going off to college and leaving him home alone with those two crazy Africans, it's called Never Change by Joey McIntyre, used to be part of Backstreet Boys. No, New Kids on the Block, sorry. And I found it on the floor in high school, and I played that song for him, and that was one of our bonding moments, and he cried, I cried. It's a song talking about never change. So my brother was homosexual, and I knew that early, and he came out to us later. But I was speaking about be yourself. The lyrics are, don't you ever wish you were someone else. You were meant to be the way you are exactly. That's the key part of the song. So that song was in my car that evening, and it came on, and it kept playing for some odd reason. And then fast forward, I blanked out. Apparently I ended up doing the exact same things my brother did when he committed suicide. And the cops came and picked me up. Like, I don't remember how I got to my parents' house. I don't remember anything. I just reappeared on their steps. And they took me and I started having a breakdown. My heart rate went over 220.
Wow.
And they rushed me over, and I was just sedated. And I was also instituted for 72 hours. It was a life-changing time.
Yeah.
So that's what happened March 20th, 2013.
I can't help it. I go back to those songs that you shared as among your favorites.
Oh, and it's called Stay the Same. That's the name. Stay the Same by Joey McIntyre. It's a great song.
Yeah. I all I can say is I could see how that would, just that whole series of events would create a reaction in the body and in the spirit. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're well, and I'm glad you are here to raise your daughter. Is there a moment or event that spotlights or highlights your experience as a Black man in America?
Wow. I will have to say the Rodney King trial and then the riot. That was really the first time that I realized that I was less than in this country.
Mm.
That when they say Black Lives Matter, that's the first time that resonated to me was way back then, because I was growing up in the LA area and I saw the carnage, and then I learned later about the Watts riots from years before, and it just really resonated with me that this could happen in this country. You know, they say, oh, liberty and life, justice for all these things that America wants you to believe that it holds hard dearly. It doesn't apply to everyone. And then and I'm a young boy, so when that happened, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to feel. I just saw this anger, and I wasn't angry. I was young. I was just confused. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time. I can always look back to that moment in time to see how I was later treated by the police as I became older, because when you become older, now they feel like you're a threat to society. How many times I get pulled over, I had guns drawn on me, zip ties in front of my college campus. It's just, it's funny that sometimes I'm still shocked. Yeah, but
when you say you're still shocked, I teach government and law, and I have a love for words. I write poems. I get moved when I read something in a book and the author or the writer has strung them together in a way that your heart is pulled. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And because I love words, I love the Constitution. Like, I love what they were creating, like what it's about, how it's organized, how it's structured. And sometimes I can fall so much in love with it that I believe in it. And I'm not saying it's not valued. I'm not saying it's not enforced in many cases. I'm just saying it is not something that traditionally Black people can rely on in the same way.
When they wrote it, they had slaves.
Exactly.
When they wrote it, they didn't write it with you or I in mind.
Exactly. And yet it is so alluring to fall in love with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so anyway, so I know what, and I say that because I know what that experience is to still be shocked by, what? Y'all did you really let that person go? Or vice versa? You convicted him based on what? Speaking of that, have you had any experiences? You've already said you have, but is there an experience or two that you want to share about your interactions with law enforcement?
I'll give you two. Okay. A lighthearted one, I would say, was when I was in college, the one with the zip ties. I was living off campus. My girlfriend at the time was a collegiate athlete. She lived on campus. She wanted me to pick her up and just to take her to her class, which is at the front of the school. She didn't feel like riding her bike that day, which is fine. I got up, I still had my pajamas on, drove over to her dorm, picked her up. And as I'm driving back, I see the cop car, the campus police. No big deal. They always roam around. But every turn I made, they mimicked. So I was like, I know what that is. As a Black man, we know when one time or 12, whatever you want to call them, is following you. We know it. We're prepared for it. So then I'm like, okay, we'll see what this is. As soon as I pull off campus to the front, which her class is like right there, they hit me with the lights. And I'm like, what's this? And she's panicking. I'm like, calm down. Come over. And they, long story short, they started, they were polite about it, but they still took me out, detained us. She started screaming and crying. I'm gonna be late for class. Why y'all harassing us? They finally let her go. They leave me on the curb with zip ties. Asked me about questions all in my truck, going through everything. They were looking for drugs. They thought I didn't fit. What was this Black guy doing with a pickup truck on the college campus? And as it's happening, I see my colleagues, some that I recognize, they can see me. They see me on the ground. Mm-hmm. And it's embarrassing. I'm in there in my pajamas, my little do-rag on. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's tough. And then they finally let me go. I forgot what it was that they were like, okay, you're good to go. But they weren't at least brutalizing me and yelling at me, that which I was used to that. And that didn't happen. It was just that they detained me without just cause.
I just want to say, because you said you were going to share, the first one was lighthearted. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's going to be
lighthearted.
something that's humorous, but that's what you mean by lighthearted.
That's lighthearted because I wasn't beaten or had a gun. Didn't have that. So now let's go to the second one. And this one, it's my aunt-in-law who we went to her funeral, and we're all coming back. I had my wife, her sister, and her cousin, all female. You know, we have a physician, we have an engineer, wife's a teacher. We have all these distinguished people, all women with me in the car. We just left my grandmother's house, who was sick at the time, and she was dealing with Alzheimer's. So we just left there just to kind of say hi, just to appreciate her while she's still here. And then as I'm pulling over in Carson, I'm at a stop sign and I can see the cop car because it's nighttime, but he has those little yellow lights on, and he doesn't, I guess he doesn't know he does. So I'm looking at him and I say, look at this guy. Well, he's probably trying to get the California rollers, who rolled through the stop sign. And so I made sure I came to a complete stop because I'm looking at him at the left. And as I do that, I still pull over and he still flares me anyway. And then fast forward, we start getting to a heated exchange because I'm very emotional at the time. And we go through this heated exchange and he's yelling at me, talking trash to me, and everyone in the car, my sister-in-law in the backseat crying, like, why are you doing this? Why do you have to be this way? And he's like harassing us and yelling at her, cussing at me. What? And it was horrible to the point where I knew there was no badge and no good. I'm 6'3", 260. I'm gonna tear you up. So I'm already like, I got to a point to where I had enough of them, and I was about to charge him. I reached for the door, and as I pulled up, my wife's cousin, she's an engineer. She's tall. She's like 6'2", and she just grabbed me by my chest and pulled me back. It's like, no, Mikey. And I realized later he had his hand on his gun. He would have killed me. He was ready for whatever. He came in pistols blazing. So I had a car full of crying women at that point, and I'm trying to calm down. And it was the only thing that didn't happen is that I didn't get he still gave me a ticket, which I tried to fight it. But the only thing that didn't happen was I didn't literally have a gun drawn on me this time, and I was not physically harmed. But the emotional trauma and the unjust pulling over anyway in the Black neighborhood, just pulling over anyone that drove past your way pretty much that evening. Right. Which I went to court, and he had half the courtroom was his cases. I remember that day. Yeah, this guy was just a horrible person. I still remember his name. It was just that was something that I will never forget.
Wow. Another gentleman I interviewed talked about being stopped when his daughter was in the car. And the sense I get is that, because I'm a sister interviewing Black men, so I don't know the male experience, but I'm loving getting to hear it. And one of the things I can hear is just how upsetting it is when these incidents happen and the women in your life have to witness this kind of treatment, So I'm loving doing the series just because it highlights something I think a lot of women don't think about. I'll speak for myself. It's not something I think about a lot. Like, how does it impact the man who's having that experience when we're there, Anyway, anything you want to say about that before we move on?
I don't like getting emotional.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
If the U.S. were a woman, whether she was sister, wife, neighbor, stranger.
Wow.
What would you say to her?
Oh. Wow. Okay. How do I put this? Because I try not to say anything bad to women. Can you still be beautiful without your makeup? Can you be beautiful without your makeup. What I mean by that is a lot of people come to this country for the ideology of what we believe, the ideology that, oh, the land of the free, the home of the brave, all these great things, these monikers that we believe in, just to see that it's hypocritical. Just to see that, okay, with capitalism, you have the chance to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter how rich you are, and I forgot who said this, they said, no matter how rich you are, you're still a nigga in a coupe. Kanye said that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kanye said that. You know, you if you're a black man, you could be a billionaire black man, but because of this class thing, you could drive a nice Bentley in an area, they'll pull you over thinking that you stole it. And no matter what level you reach, you're still a nigga in a coupe. You know, so until they know who you are, like, oh, I didn't know it was you. That happened not too long ago. They said, oh, I didn't know it was this whoever famous singer was. Oh, I didn't know that was you. Oh, that's so-and-so. Leave them alone. So what do you mean? Because I'm so-and-so? That I'm not attributed the same liberties as my less melanated counterparts? You know, why is it because I have darker skin, I'm less than? So if I have darker skin and I have no money, I'm gonna get locked away without just cause, and I don't have the finances to pay for the proper representation. Same thing with our healthcare. We go all ways with this, but it makes it they give off this view to the world. And see, that's what's good about this presidency, because the veil is coming off and the world can see how ugly we really are. We actually have third world countries in this nation. You can go to other places and you see people living in straight dirt roads and poverty with no shoes in the United States. So yeah, we got palaces on high. We got billionaires on billionaires, but we have some of the worst educational system in the world. The only thing the United States is number one for is prisons per capita.
Dang.
Yep. And the amount of people who believe that angels are real.
Really? I didn't know that. I always look forward to hearing the different ways men answer that question, and I love how you said that. So, Mike, is there anything about you that we haven't already touched on that challenges any of the stereotypes that are out there about Black men? And you've touched on many. First and foremost, just being a magnificent father. I can hear that in how you speak. You know, you're an engineer, you're very accomplished as an entrepreneur, the successes you had in the car industry. So we've covered many. But is there anything we haven't covered?
Oh, God. I don't talk about myself often. I actually wrote a poem before called Mirror, Mirror. Mm-hmm. The way that I achieve maximum happiness is to reflect it off other people. I'm a jokester. I grew up that way. I'm the middle child, so I had to get attention. So I like to make other people laugh and feel good, whether it's through jokes or through gifts or whatever. And that's how I receive happiness. So it's very hard for me to look internally to find good. I always look for it externally. So that's I have to really think to dig deeper. I don't know. I like video games sometimes, but I feel like I've outgrown them. I don't know how to play them anymore, except for 2K. I got you, but other than that, I'm lost. I have games I've never played. My dad told me when I was a kid, I was addicted to games, and I would seldom go help him with yard work. He would say, you know what, son, I'm going to stop fighting you on this. I looked at him bewildered, like, what are you talking about? And he says, one day when you become a man, you won't have time for games. And I was like, whatever, dude, I'm always going to play. I'm going to start making games. I went to school for that, computer science engineering, to make video games originally. So, and then one day, I think I was about 27 or so, late 20s. And I looked at him and I smirked and I said, Dad, you were right. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I think I'm a man now. And he knew what I was talking about. I had no time for video games anymore. And it still hurts to this day. I'm like, I feel I'm old. I can't play this stuff. I don't know how to do it. They move too fast. I get seasick.
Oh,
So
don't you worry. Give it another 5 to 10 years. You're going to put on a little cap and you won't even have to do anything. All you do is think it and it'll happen.
just move your arms and think, and it's gonna be like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. That's
yeah,
coming. So it's right for us.
yeah.
Um, so, by the way, I did know that you said you were a member of the, the National Society for Black Engineers.
Yeah.
I know about this organization because I went to school for industrial engineering all of freshman year.
Okay, I'm Region 6 representative.
and then got my degree in sociology because I preferred getting A's over B's.
For me, it was like prefer getting B's over D's. Engineer was thinking about you know what. That.
I'm going to share this. So I always would tell people when I got out of college, and I would say, well, I stopped. I said, I got a C in calculus. And that was the 5-quarter calculus because they had a 3-quarter calculus and I was in the 5-quarter calculus. And then when I was I swear I had a C. Like years back, I went back and looked at my transcript and saw I was a B. And I was like, that's how I experienced, because when you get into college, you're like all A's and everything, but that's how I experienced it, right? Yeah. All I know is I was like, there's a lot of work for that.
Right. Totally agree.
That's such a shame to say, but it was a lot of work for that. But I think I just heard you say you weren't just in engineering, you were in computer science. Did I hear that right?
I had computer science, engineering, business, and sociology. That's where it finished off at. Same. I was very stubborn. I was like, my dad's an engineer. I'm an engineer. Even though I was the president and I brought the chapter back, by that time I started taking less engineering courses because I couldn't hang. To be honest with you, I was wearing too many hats, doing too many things to even focus on my studies, and it wasn't enough of us. I realized the key when you saw our Asian comrades, they all had these huge study groups, and that's the key. You try to do it on your own.
Exactly what you mean.
You need the study group, so it's important to have a group like NSBE. But it was really just me. It was just me and like a few other students, and I didn't have any. And we weren't taking the same classes. I was much older than them, so it was difficult.
I will actually own my own. I won't say it's an error because I'm happy with how my life turned out. But I will say when I was an undergrad, we had something. There was a house on campus called Ujima. That was where Black themed or African themed dorm. And anyway, and we also had a BSU with a little house, the whole thing. And there were groups that got together and studied, right? But it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I didn't do it. And I think it would have made a huge difference had I, done that. Anyway, so now that we've had this conversation, what, if anything, are you taking away from participating in this conversation?
Actually learning a lot about myself. Like I said earlier, all I do is when I going through life and trying to evolve, I do self-reflect, and I self-diagnose, but I don't self-inspect. I don't look deep to know more about me. I really don't even think about it, actually. I don't think about these questions you've asked me. I don't think about those moments in time that sculpted who I am. I don't think about them often. I just pack it down and move on to the next thing. So it's been eye-opening, to say the least, to hear these things out loud.
Yeah, great. I find it very generous that all these brothers, some that I know personally, we've talked on the phone and just met in the last couple weeks. And I'm just very appreciative that you guys come in and just share yourselves with me and with the listeners. I always end by just, acknowledging the man that's on the screen in front of me. And I hinted at this earlier, but the thing I want to say to you, Mike, is that you just stand out as an amazing pillar of your community.
Wow.
Like when I look at all the hats you wore in college, all the organizations you're involved in, and what they're about. It's so clear that your intention is to be a pillar that holds together a foundation on which your family and your community can thrive. So
Wow.
thank you.
It never crosses my mind. I just do what's in my heart and I just do it. And I feel like I'm underachieving actually. So that's, I'll accept that. I'll receive that.
I appreciate that you do. It's important. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. As you can hear, you do not want to miss any of these brothers. Make sure you subscribe. You can find more at our website, 365brothers.com, 365brothers.com. This is Robin Shine. To listen is to love.